So,
We're back.
we're back. It's probably been for you guys, a couple days?
It's been 3 minutes exactly for us.
So,
So
he-
last week I gave my predictions for the MLB Awards.
now it's sort of my turn.
Yeah.
And as for the MVP race, I think that's going to go to Mookie Betts
Yeah.
in the American League. He just had a fantastic year. There's been a lot of hype around him for the last few years, and he's been getting there and then just falling a little short. And then this past year, he's really, really broken out. Whether that's a Bryce Harper MVP sort of season, and then he might regress. I'm not sure. He definitely has potential. He's got the charisma. He also has an awesome name.
Yeah, and he has a baseball name. And while I picked Jose Ramirez just because I still think home runs and RBI should be the big figure, and he led all three of the AL MVP candidates in that, Mookie Betts certainly has the average, the swagger, and also the fact that he helped his team deep into the postseason. I know that doesn't affect MVP voting, but still. Oh, by the way, this is probably going to go out after all these awards are picked, so bear in mind, this is our opinions before this happens.
Yes. We'll have corrections somewhere on the screen here or in the doobly-doo.
Yeah.
Which is
Future
good.
Joe, edit that in.
Yes.
Now, I picked for the NL MVP, Christian Yelich, because
I'm going to have to agree.
Yeah, he is one of the most all-around players I have seen. And I've seen a lot of Brewers games this year, and just about every game, especially in that down the stretch where the Brewers had to win every single game, he was hitting a home run, he was hitting a triple. He was part of the reason that...
You got two cycles this year, right?
Yeah, both against the Reds, but still. He was one of the big reasons why the Brewers were winning games 12-4, 12-5. And this is kind of out of nowhere for him because he was a good player in Miami, but even with protection in Stanton and Marcell Ozuna and Justin Bour, we never saw anything like this out of him.
Maybe it's just a Brewers thing. I mean, Sabathia carried the team on the back. Now it's his part. I don't know. Ryan Braun's now taking a back seat to that.
Yeah, we thought there would be a glut of outfielders for the Brewers' problem. They had just the right amount of players.
Yep. So I'm gonna give it to Christian Yelich as well. For the NL MVP.
The NL MVP.
The Brewers are not in the AL anymore.
They were in the AL.
They were, but not anymore.
No. Moving on to Cy Young Award.
Cy Young. Let's go with National League.
It's basically down to whether you like Jacob deGrom's ERA or the wins and strikeouts of Max Scherzer.
I gotta go with the wins and strikeouts with Scherzer.
Yeah.
He's just he's won it so many years now.
Yeah,
I think been in the top, and
this will be 3-4 years in a row.
Yeah, and it's he's even won it with the Tigers in the American.
I'm getting
League.
Looks from a Mets fan that's off screen.
DeGrom or Riot.
There's nothing absolutely wrong if DeGrom wins.
No, if anything,
nothing at all.
I remember there was a stat that if he got at least 3 runs of support or more, he would have won, I think, 25, 27 games.
Yeah.
So that is something that can't be discounted in this.
Yeah.
But 300 strikeouts, I think, is a much harder fact in this day and age with how starting pitchers are managed.
Well, yes, the way they're managed, but you also have to account for the big swing and miss ratio now.
Right.
I mean, we even saw this with Didi Gregorius, who didn't really have too many strikeouts to his name on each year, but he struck out a lot more this year. And I don't remember what the numbers were, but say he was averaging 70 strikeouts a year, which isn't bad really. But he might have cracked 100 this year, somewhere close to that, which is uncharacteristic. But he's been swinging for the fences more, back-to-back seasons now.
It's kind of the Yankee curse that short porch looks very appealing to a left-hand hitter. Staying in the AL, how can you discount Blake Snell and that incredible run at the end of the year he had?
I think you got to give the Cy Young to the Rays, just bullpen in general.
Yeah.
Can this be a team effort?
Not only did they have perhaps the best pitcher in the American League starting wise, they also reinvented the entire game yet again. I mean, we talk about this every several years that the Rays somehow stay ahead of the curve.
I thought it was just Joe Madden keeping that.
Yeah, but
I
no,
guess it's just the Rays organization.
It's to the point where MLB itself is starting to look into see how they're going to regulate this, especially with how the Brewers kind of did bait and switches in the playoffs for openers.
Because if this sort of keeps happening, and
we're going to have to reinvent how we look at the Cy Young Award.
That, but also how lineups are done, because normally you put the batting order in like how you want to have like your on base guy, and then you have your big heavy hitters towards the middle, and then sort of like work it down or whatever. But by putting in that like opener, you're sort of trying to hope that specialist gets out that top of the order, and then you work on like then your regular pitcher comes in and works on the easier batters. But at that point, then do you move your 7, 8, and 9 hitters to the top of the order? And then just be like, whatever. And then if they get on, you already have your guys who normally get on, but now they're batting 4th, 5th, and 6th, and then they're driving in those extra runs.
Exactly.
That's going to throw everything off. But that wouldn't be for like another couple of years. And if that,
I'm not so sure if they don't regulate how the opener is handled, like how. I'm not sure about regulating how long a starter should be out in the game, but this could very well upend how baseball games are played a lot more than defensive shifts are.
Well, also money-wise, too, because if you're making all those starts, like some pitchers have in their contracts...
Arbitration pays money.
They're like, oh, well, if you make 30 starts this year, you'll get an extra $200,000 or whatever. Like, we've seen this with Jimmy Graham in football. He's a tight end, and he wanted wide receiver money from the Saints because he was basically playing a wide receiver position, which generally gets paid more money than a tight end.
Right.
But somehow the legal stuff made it, and they're like, no, you're a tight end, even though he was basically playing a wide receiver position. So this is going to bring up a whole bunch of different things. But I have no problem on the gameplay level of having an opener. I have absolutely no problem. I have a problem with the shift. We've beaten that to death. But I have no problem with the opener. To move on,
managers. I said that you can't look away from what Kevin Cash and Craig Counsell did to force their teams to go to the very end to either force their way to the playoffs or stay in contention until the last week. What do you think?
I agree completely. What Cash did with the Rays is just an amazing thing.
On a team where we thought was going nowhere.
They were like penciled in to win like 20 games this year.
And even after they sold off some assets.
Yeah, they lost Chris Archer and everything. And had the Yankees and A's not been that good, they would have made the playoffs.
Would have made the playoffs on a $34 million budget.
Yeah.
I know it's hard. It's hard to predict what they'll do next year just because of how the Rays operate. But even though they're usually a low-spending team, they could literally be in on everyone just to the fact they have all this money to burn.
Yeah.
And that's a scary thing.
So I'm interested in that.
Yeah, and as for Counsell, we already talked that the Brewers were literally winning every single game they had to win, with the exception of the National League Championship Series. And then Rookie of the Year.
Rookie of the Year, it's really a toss-up, but I got to give it to, what's his name on the Braves? Acuna.
Yeah. It's close between, you could easily argue him or Soto, but I agree with you.
Yeah.
Acuna, he helped his team get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Soto, while great, was unable to do that.
Yes. So I got to give it to him, and not just because he's on a winning team, but he was on the
He's just an all-around player.
Yeah, he was better too.
Yeah, now American League.
That's a bit of a toss-up. Gleyber Torres was definitely starting out as the better. Well, Ohtani was started. He blew out his elbow.
While he was hurt, Torres got up there, but then Torres got hurt and he struggled.
Yep. And Andujar was like the only consistent guy on the Yankees all year, batting average wise.
But what do you think about what I said, where that the fact that it's 2 Yankees against one other player, that's going to split the vote?
That might do that. Which I think for Mookie Betts' case, that JD Martinez isn't there.
Definitely. Remember when
that happens?
Yeah.
But with the Rookie of the Year, you also have to factor in defense as well. And while Andujar's defense was shoddy sometimes,
it was still passable.
It was passable.
It was better than people had pegged it out to be.
I mean, you also have to remember Derek Jeter didn't always have like great defense.
Jeter just got the defense simply because he was great at being in position.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see now with how hyper shifts have gone. We only saw him with defensive shifts at the tail end of his career, what he would have looked like there. But anyway.
So I want to give it to Andujar, but even in the limited times that Ohtani did play,
that last run in August and September where he was just mashing home runs left and right, I think that cemented it for him.
So I wouldn't be surprised if it was Ohtani, but I think it should go to Andujar, who played a full season.
As I said, my heart says Andujar, my brain says it'll probably be Ohtani. And my eyes say we're running out of time on this one.
Yes. So last thing, I just want to say JD Martinez won, 2 Silver Slugger awards? Yeah. That should not have happened. In order to win that, you should have to be forced to play 120 games and at least 90% of your games at that one position.
Or at the very least only be eligible for one.
And I mean, he met the game requirements, but not specifically at each of those positions there. So, I mean, props to him, great player, but how does that factor in that he's not in the MVP race and he has 2 Silver Slugger awards?
Who knows? Well, we'll talk to you next week.
All right.